Welcome back, folks, and Happy New Year. It has been a long time since we've been together here on the channel, and I'm so happy to be back in the train room and doing this video where we're going to look at a couple of the things that I got for Christmas this year, and I hope all of you had a great holiday season. But we're also going to spend some time and answer the great questions that you posted on my community page. So thank you to everyone who participated. I thought it would be a great way to kick off the new year because I've been getting a lot of questions over the last several months, and I figured this would be a great opportunity to sit down and answer some of those while we run some trains. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. If you've been following this channel, you will know that the Hudson is my favorite locomotive, and I was fortunate enough to get not one, but two streamlined Hudsons by Lionel that were produced in the 90s. First one is this excellent Lionel Commodore Vanderbilt. There were a couple of different variations of this that were made in the 90s. There was a gray one, there was this darker charcoal, almost black version, there was a red one and a blue one, and then there was, of course, the famous Neil Young pastel tie-dye version, which if I could ever find one of those, it'd be great to have, but we're going to start off with this one right here. And it's really great to add something like the Commodore Vanderbilt because it's a streamlined Hudson, so we can add it next to the Empire State Express, which is another one of my favorite engines. And of course, this Dreyfuss Hudson, which I have not yet run on the channel. This was an engine that I added right before Christmas time. So we're going to definitely spend some time in a future video looking at just these streamlined Hudsons because everybody likes a streamlined steam engine. This one I was really excited to get. This train engine, and of course the second one, the C&O Yellow Belly. It's always fun to feel like a kid again when you open an engine, especially one like this, on Christmas. So these are two of the pieces that I got that I was really excited about. And of course, these actually both came from trains.com. This has always been an engine on my list, so getting this engine to have in my own collection was really exciting for me. This, of course, is a first-generation TMCC, so it has all the fixings of a post-war drivetrain with the modern technology, modern, quote-unquote, for the 90s. It's not legacy, no whistle steam on this engine, but it's a lot of fun to run because you're really getting that combination of that post-war aroma, if you will, while it's running, which I really enjoy, plus the features of command control. One of my generous coworkers gifted me a gift card that I used to get this SW8 switcher by Lionel. This is a brand new model. So the first two engines I showed you were from the 90s. They're a bit more vintage now. Hard to believe the 90s is vintage. How old am I? But this engine is absolutely incredible. Of course, I picked the New York Central. There were a lot of great road names, and I really sat there and stared at the screen and said, do I go Strasbourg, however you want to say it, or do I go New York Central? And I opted for the New York Central because it just matches a lot of my other New York Central equipment. We'll take a look at it and see it running here on the layout. What a great looking engine next to these buildings and in the yards. Great sounds, of course, everything you would expect from a high-end Lionel engine. So we're trackside with the New York Central switcher so we can listen to this SW8 in action. Amazing sounds on this little switcher. And I actually have two Vision Line boxcars. We have the Pacemaker, which is brand new from Lionel, and the Baltimore and Ohio, which is brand new from Lionel. So, should make a little noise, a little bit of racket while it moves. Hear them banging around. So check this thing out. Awesome. That's pretty neat. All right, horn. And now let's roll these in to the town of Addison and get them cleared out of the way for these fast Hudsons to come flying by.
Let me know as soon as 724 gets by. We ought to have to do something. All right. We'll call you right behind 724 then.
It's an important job, getting these cars out of the way.
Don't forget about those 4 orders. That's going to be 124.6.
Patty.
Patty.
We are trackside with our two streamlined Hudsons. Now remember, disclaimer, these are both Lionel models from the 90s, so they do not feature speed control. They're not going to creep along like our legacy models do. They are pretty much conventional engines with radio boards in them. So, TMCC, Trainmaster Command Control, first generation, definitely on the C&O Hudson. The New York Central Commodore Vanderbilt is from the late 90s. So a little bit more sophistication. It has a little bit of crew talk in it, but I really enjoy these vintage whistles that you're going to hear in these. Let's start with our C&O. All right, let's check out the whistle. It's coming for you. It's coming for you. Get out of the way when you hear that coming. Now, this train is very heavy, so it does hear a little bit of the sounds from it. So these, again, first generation sounds. This is a very heavy engine, so it does pull these heavyweight cars with no problem. Now, let's listen to our Commodore Vanderbilt. I'm going to shut down the C&O so we can listen to our Commodore Vanderbilt. This one has an incredible whistle. Check this out. You're going to like this. I just think that that is really cool. Now, our C&O is only pulling 4 heavyweight cars. Our Commodore Vanderbilt is pulling 6, which is a lot heavier. And anyone who knows these 90s engines knows that it takes a little bit for them to get going. But check this out. No issue pulling these cars. I'm going to start the other one up too. So let's watch them pull these cars off the line. We're going to start with the C&O. That one's only pulling 4 cars. Here we go. And we're rolling. And of course, our Commodore Vanderbilt pulling these 6 cars. You can do it, buddy. You can do it. Oh yeah. Crank it. Just great trains. All right, so let's jump into some of the questions that were posted on my community page. We'll start with some of the more frequently asked questions, and then we'll move through the list. I did my best to consolidate, and if your question didn't make it, we'll try to do this again maybe halfway through the year or so that everyone has an opportunity. I definitely appreciate all of the questions, so let's get right into it. First question is, Chris, do you ever plan to expand your layout? And while that's a great question, my room is pretty finite. I don't have a vast space like some of the folks you may have seen in the forums or some of the other YouTubers. My friends Chris and Jason have these phenomenal 30+ foot layouts. I would love to have something like that, but I'm very happy with what I've built here. I think one of the projects I will be doing this year, we're going to be building out and developing the area around the Bailey Township. Behind the township today, we have a series of trestles. So we're going to be building out a platform to build more of a scene up in this area. The next question is more of a comment that I get all the time. And we're just going to go ahead and nip this one in the bud. And it is, Chris, you remind me of Jim Carrey. Alrighty then. So while I would love the opportunity for Jim Carrey to come on this channel, Jim, if you're watching, do you run trains? I don't know. Another great question is, Chris, what got you into the hobby in the first place? And what I always say to this question is that I am a cradle O-gauger, meaning that trains have been, model trains, not real trains, but model trains have been a part of my life since I was a baby. So I've been around it all my life. My dad had a Mark set that he was gifted when he was a kid. And that was the only train we had for a long time. And in 1998, if you watched my Trains with Dad video, 1998 is when we got the first command engine. And then I really became fascinated with what O-gauge had to offer. How did you make the round edges on the layout? Well, if you look at these photos that were taken when my friend Lawrence was helping me construct the layout, you'll see that we framed it underneath and we used thin strips of plywood. The entire layout is made out of plywood. No 2x4s or anything, because at the time there was a lumber shortage and plywood was the most effective wood that we could find to use. Lawrence is actually more of a furniture maker by trade, so he had these great ideas to make the contoured edges and kind of curve it with the layout. So you'll see in these pictures with the framing and the small strips of plywood, he was able to create and laminate these edges that you see on the table. Pretty cool. I've always liked that feature, and it really kind of helps the layout to fit into the room almost more as a piece of furniture in and of itself. And that furniture look, I think, really helps the layout to blend into the room more aesthetically. Another question is, Chris, what is your professional background? So I work in IT sales. I spend most of my day talking. So it's kind of fun to sit around and talk about trains, talk about something other than work, which is why I think I enjoy YouTube so much. Another great question. How do I get started in the hobby? How do I learn to wire, and how do I decide what transformer to select for my layout? I really like this question because there is no one answer that fits, but I can tell you this. No matter how large your track plan, keep the rule of every 10 feet or so to provide a track feeder. So when it comes to wiring, make sure you have plenty of drops around your track to maintain continuity. Some folks will correct me here. Maybe you prefer a shorter distance, maybe you prefer a longer distance. But that rule of thumb of 9 to 10 feet is pretty safe. That's what I use here, and you see my trains run with no issue. I think there's a lot of confusion around transformers. My recommendation is definitely to consider what type of equipment you're going to be running. If you're going to run mainly command engines, go for a fixed power source, like the Lionel powerhouse. Those power bricks provide you constant voltage and are a great way to run command equipment without having to worry about variable voltage or any of those types of things. If you're going to run both conventional and command, I would definitely recommend something along the lines of a Z4000. So that's a lot, but this hobby has a lot of different paths. It's like build your own story. It can get very confusing, but try to eliminate the variables, and it's really something that is palatable, and you will, I promise, you will figure it out. Another great question has to do with starter sets. And the question is, Chris, what is the best starter set to get into this hobby? And that question has been kind of narrowed down by the process of elimination. With MTH not making starter sets anymore, we're really left with only Lionel in terms of starter sets. So what I would suggest is take a look at some of the different ones. Luckily, they make a ton of them, and they work really well. They come with their own remote controls, they come with their own track and power supplies, and you can really get a number of different types of sets. I have a few sets of my own. I have the Union Pacific set, which I ran in a video. That's really one of the more basic sets. Then of course we have the more fun set that we ran for classic toy trains, which is the Lionel Area 51. But they've done the Super Chief, they have freight sets. Take a look at their catalog or any of the major retailers and just pick the flavor that best suits you, because those sets come with everything you could need, and it's a great way to get started. Another great question. Will I be doing more collaborations with other YouTubers this year? Absolutely. Lots of great collabs planned. If you're interested in doing one, leave me a comment. We can certainly connect. I'm always interested in the opportunity to visit layouts or have folks come to see this one and run trains. I think it's one of the best things about the hobby is the community that we have. Do you collect Thomas and Friends? How could I possibly leave out Thomas and Friends? I do have Thomas the Tank Engine. We have Percy, James, and Diesel. I think those are the 4 engines that we have in the fleet. They're currently with my nephews. I don't run them as often on this channel because the one time I ran them, I had the passenger cars facing the wrong direction and I got in big trouble. I almost went to YouTube jail from my viewers over that one. So I'm a little intimidated to run those on the channel because I don't want to get in trouble. What locomotive do you consider to be the crown jewel of your collection? This one, I didn't even have to think. It is this 1964 Lionel 773 Hudson. This is an iconic engine. Of course, the 1950 773 is the rarer of the two. So those of you at home who are watching this video who own the 1950 version, I'm sure you're grinning from ear to ear, feeling great. And yes, I would love to have the 1950 version, and one day we will add it. Luckily, I do have the 1950 tender to my 1964 engine. So even though I don't have the true 1950 version, this is still an incredibly collectible model, and it is one of the best pieces that I have. Have you ever simulated a train wreck? Well, I can tell you, I've never simulated one, but I've had many, and I've crashed just about every train you've ever seen me run on this layout. So I will probably try to find the B-roll of all of that happening. It's normally me freaking out, killing power, knocking the camera over, having a couple of tears, and then tears of joy when I see that things are not scratched. What was the first large locomotive I ever purchased? That is the MTH Premier Allegheny that I ran in my Running Big Steam Engines video. Powerful engine. What are your plans for 2022, Chris? Great question. Lots of plans. I'm thinking maybe I'll just completely turn this channel into a train ASMR channel. Maybe it would look something like this. Train car. Okay, so we're not going to turn this into an ASMR channel. I kid. But lots of great things coming up. Lots of new trains coming along. Pre-orders that are set to arrive. We're looking for more vintage trains. And of course, we're just going to be having a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to what 2022 has to offer and what trains we're gonna see. We have Lionel catalogs coming out. We have new products from Atlas and MTH and a ton of other stuff that we gotta check out and run this year. As always, a huge thank you to all of my subscribers and to everyone who's been supporting this channel. My name is Chris and this is RBP Trains. We'll see you next time.